So why we have been talking the last 10, 15 years about diversity? Because in 2042, the majority the minorities together are going to be the majority in the United States. The people of color will comprise more than 50% of the US population. And when we talk about people of color, we are not talking only about African American or Hispanics, but we're talking about Native Indians, we're talking about Asians, we talk about Pacific Islanders, we talk about Middle Eastern. So there are a lot of groups that are included in people of color term. And there are 5 generations, as I said, in the workplace. Disabilities affect more than 20% of all Americans, specifically now that we have a lot of veterans coming back from the war, and they suffer not only from physical disabilities, but from invisible disabilities as well. Any invisible disability is everything that has to do with psychological effects like PTSD, like bipolar, like OCD, like depression, like anxiety. All these are disabilities. And also women are earning most college degrees, but we're still fighting for gender equality and for pay equality. Though, and we still consider women as a minority, though the women are 52 to 54% of the US population. And they are minority because they have less access to wealth and education, specifically when it comes to STEM. There are estimated 9 million LGBT individuals in the US. And also we are seeing, you know, the emerge of diverse and remote teams, specifically now with COVID, where we are all working remotely from home. And this is part of diversity. And I want to remind you that diversity is not only about color and ethnicity and creed and race. It has, yes, it has the race, it has the ethnicity, it has the creed or the religion, but it also has the age of generations. It has genders, and genders is non-binary. It has abilities and disabilities. It has sexual orientation. It has also diversity of jobs like white collar, blue collar, education, socioeconomic, learning styles, communication styles, paternal status, maternal status, veteran status, marital status, and the list goes on and on and on, including the diversity of thoughts. So diversity is basically the unique characteristics that make us as human beings. And diversity is, yes, about differences, but it's about similarities as well. And about similarities, this is what people actually miss. Also, to complete building a business case for diversity, we need to know that according to research that have been done by the US Census Bureau and the Gallup, 1 in 5 workers have experienced discrimination or unfair treatment at work. 1 in 5. Gallup has done employee engagement surveys from the 2010 till today, and it didn't change that much. And they found that 28% are actively disengaged, of the employees are actively disengaged, meaning they're becoming toxic to the workplace. There are only probably 29 to 30% engaged. So the difference between the 30 and 30, if you want to say it, which is basically in the middle, that 40% are disengaged. The disengagement of employees in the workplace cost the United States anywhere between $3 and $5 billion due to absenteeism, turnover, people not producing, people walking like zombie, just checking in and out for a paycheck. So diversity and how you value people has a lot to do with your employee engagement. Inclusive organizations have the highest employee engagement because it has the higher performance, because people feel appreciated for who they are, and of course, they give you higher productivity. So diversity is about people. It's not about a strategy. It's about implementation of rules. It's not about Title VII, only Title VII. It's about a dialogue that we need to build between us and between our workforce. And a dialogue means it's a two-way street. It's not like me telling them as executive team what to do. It's hearing and actively listening to what they have to say. It's about sensitivity, it's not about compliance, and it's about empathy, dealing with the people, with your team members as basically human beings that are going through a lot, like you're going through it, and not just an employee number or a social security number. And most important about diversity, another characteristic that is emerging is intersectionality. And intersectionality is basically the layers of who we are. Because as we know, our culture is very dynamic. And again, culture is not only race or ethnicity or religion or color. Culture is the lens that we see the world through. But we always forget that other people have different lenses that they see the world through. So recognizing the importance of intersection of identity has a lot to do with employee experience. Like, I want you to think for a second, what are the layers of your personality? Where is your intersectionality? And actually our intersectionality is not a weakness, is a strength and is a beauty. Like, if I want to talk about my intersectionality, I am a female, I am an X generation, I am professional, I am married, I have my own company, I'm a fur baby mom, I am Egyptian American, and the list goes on and on and on. You know, my interests and my preferences and all that, my religion or my spirituality, all these are layers. So when we deal with the person, there are so many layers behind us or behind them that we need to put in our consideration as inclusive leaders. So it's about differences and similarities, and it's about being represented in leadership, in management, in executive team, again, in boards. Diversity means that we are open to learning from others without actually being very humble, being vulnerable to be open to feedback. This is the only way we can grow, and this is the only way we can connect in a human way with our team members. It's about dignity, it's about respect, it's about inclusion. Representation alone might get you the numbers of diversity that you want, but it's not necessarily inclusion. For example, if we are in a hospital setting and we hire all the nurses from a Filipino background, we are representing them as an ethnicity, but we are not achieving diversity, specifically if they are females from a certain age. Hiring goals boost only diversity, and that's why we always need to think about inclusion. So what is inclusion? Inclusion is basically valuing all the diverse talents, not despite of their differences, but because of them. Because our beauty and our strength is basically in our differences. It's a conscious effort to involve all human resources in the mission, in the vision, in the core values of an organization, where it's going to be embedded and part of the DNA of the organization as a critical value add. Inclusion means that everybody feels welcome and feels valued, where they all treated equally, where it's a space where they can amplify their voices. And inclusion includes inclusive behaviors, like if you have a meeting, who gets invited and why the people that are not getting invited are not maybe necessarily to this meeting. It's about allowing the space for everybody to speak. Even if you have someone that is introvert or shy, to pull them into the discussion. It's about the impact that you have on others. It's about the impact of the feedback of others. It's about being that voice for people that don't have a voice. Like, for example, if a male colleague keeps cutting off a female colleague to say, you know what, thank you very much, I heard you, now can I hear from her? You know, it's about make sure that everybody is included. And we need to remember that we need to value people for who they are and not who we want them to be. It's not about our expectations, because when we value people for who they are, they will feel appreciated. They will feel like they count and they belong, and they will give you the best from their heart. It's actually a very simple equation. And I'm still puzzled why we can't achieve it in our workplaces. So the business case for inclusion is very critical factor, not only to attract, but to retain diverse talent. So again, Deloitte has done an inclusion survey in 2011, and it has been monitoring it since then. 80% of working Americans says that inclusion is a main factor for them to choose an employer. So if you have inclusion, you can become an employer of choice. 72% will consider leaving a place of work to a more inclusive employer. 71% employees prefer inclusive leadership that demonstrate inclusive behavior. So something that is practically there rather than just knowing that the organization has strategies in place for inclusion. So it's not only about the glitzy words that we need, that we see in succession planning, that we see in diversity management and implementation, that we read on a website, but it's about walking the talk, about promising and delivering. Not only we will, like even now, after what happened with George Floyd, we have seen an insane amount of organization coming to train the people all of a sudden about unconscious bias and about diversity and inclusion. And we're gonna change, we're changing our policy, we're changing. And then it's, believe it or not, I am in that space, it's starting, unfortunately, to fizzle down. It was a hot moment and it's gone. And we all hope that actually whatever happened will wake us up and we'll start putting policies, not only putting policies, but actually apply them where we are. The most valued aspect of work culture is an environment that makes people feel comfortable and being themselves, where they're not worried, where they're not trying to fit in the workplace because they feel different. And it's not about being stressed all the time, because trying to fit in a place actually has a lot more negative psychological effects that will turn on your on a company or organization productivity in a negative way. It's never positive for someone to stress out on how to fit and walk, basically like watching what they're saying and walking on eggshells. According to Center of Talent Innovation, they said when you mirror as an organization your customers, companies have seen 45% increase in market shares in the last 12 months. Almost 50% increase in market shares. 70% of them actually captured new markets because they mirrored their customer into their employees. According to the Corporate Executive Board Global Labor, they said 19% more employees stay because of differences between them and inclusion, because these differences gives everybody the potential to basically shine and be their best. 12% are more likely to expend discretionary effort, where they're gonna do more and they give you more than even what is asked from them. Towers Watson actually published a research, and in 50 companies, they noticed a profit that is almost 3 times higher than those who don't have inclusive engagement. So what is happening right now? Specifically now, after COVID, after everybody, like a lot of people have been laid off, and they're gonna come back to a workplace where maybe their jobs is not gonna be needed anymore. And because of generations and because of technology, we will need to reskill or upskill some of our employees. So we will need to put them into programs of rehabilitation so they can still be productive members and they can earn a living. We need to support more gender identity and expression. And we need also to be educated even about the language that we are going to be using. You know, women leadership are on the rise, you know, and we have as organizations to support them, knowing and understanding that the way women lead is different than the men lead. But as long as we are achieving the goals, it's fine. Respect should be there. And we need to recognize and know that invisible disabilities actually exist. Unfortunately, some organizations ignore rather than recognize and leverage the individual employee skills. So for example, they put just a Band-Aid. Like I said, let's do a training and finish with it, or let's put some nice wording on our website, or let's have a press release where we're gonna say we support this, we support that, but nothing really happens at the bottom. And for them, for example, to have gender neutrality is just to have a gender neutral bathroom, without looking on how we are dealing, you know, with our gender policies in the workplace, how we are educating people around people that are transgender, and how we can even improve the language where it's non-offensive. And also color blindness is a lot of people, and I understand that some people say color blindness because I see people as they are. It's not about their color. For me, they're all human beings. It's great, but it can offend people, because specifically people of color, they say, when you tell me you're colorblind, you're actually denying me who I am. Because obviously my skin has a different color, and you need to see it, and you need to appreciate it, and you need to embrace it, because is who I am. Plans for women, and we see a lot of plans for women mentoring. We see succession planning that is done and spent like thousands of dollars, but they are just put on a shelf to collect dust. Nothing is done. And we have all this initiative on including gender neutrality, on including implementation of equality and equity, but nothing gets done. It always stays just initiative that doesn't do anything else. Corporate policy can deliver diversity, obviously because of the practices, because of the management, but inclusion can be delivered mostly through individuals. And obviously, these individuals are the leaders. So diversity we have to be diverse in an organization. Our leadership has to be accountable for diversity. And I have always advocated for having diversity goals to be part of their performance evaluation. And you will see how fast this will change. Diversity is also having flexible working arrangements, like for work-life balance or for commuting. It's about that, looking for diverse candidates and not only pull from the same pool that we have always have done it, same old, same old. It's about not only coaching or mentoring, but about sponsoring programs for minority groups. The difference between mentoring and mentoring is usually in an organization where someone mentors a person that is junior or younger, and they show them, you know, they basically help them get their skills to the surface so they can reach their potential. But a sponsor is basically someone that will toot your horn everywhere, that have great connections, that will open doors for you and push you through these doors. Diversity is about also employee resource groups or affinity groups, and they are a great addition to any diversity council in any organization. So the diversity, this is the corporate side. Let's go at the individual side, or the inclusion, where leaders and managers, that they become aware of their bias and check it. And as we know, we all have bias. Is what we do with it that really counts. So it becoming more self-aware, you know, of what are our bias. When we get that knee-jerk reaction, when we look at someone that is different than us, what do? It's about being curious about different views and insight and even ways of being. It's about, as leaders, we alter our behavior to make it easier to embrace and welcome and accept different people so they can flourish. And before we go forward, diversity and inclusion is not about tolerance. Tolerance basically is putting up with people. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for acceptance. And acceptance here means that it doesn't mean that I need to accept your beliefs and your values and your behaviors, but it means that I accept that we are different and I'm fine with that. At the end, we don't need to assimilate, but we need to integrate. So each one of us become like part of a beautiful salad with all the tastes, you know, actually enhance each other rather than just become a melting pot. We are all one and the same.